Let's get on to our second topic, which is certainly related to anti-fraud, but a little bit more orientated towards security and compliance. And I'm very happy to report, Paul, that as a result of coming back from the recent 8.1 Live event in Barcelona, we were very lucky to grab a few minutes with Kevin Dawson, who's one of the directors at MCP Insights, who had some very interesting things to say about compliance.
He did indeed.
Yeah. So, what do you think about what Kevin had to say in Barcelona, Paul?
Well, as Kevin says, it's interesting how the industry, the telemedia industry particularly, has shifted to being much more focused on compliance. I mean, let's face it, back in the old days, it wasn't sort of high up on the list of priorities of many companies, and a lot of it was done sort of maybe just because they had to, and often at the last minute. Whereas now, as he says, the industry is much more focused on being more sustainable and having longevity, and is applying sort of compliance and risk management across the entire value chain. So we're seeing more and more sort of companies springing up who do that for telemedia providers. But I think also it's making the industry a much safer and more interesting place. As we've seen, there's a large rise in worry about fraud. And I think we're seeing that, funnily enough, the telemedia industry is one of those sort of sectors in the digital goods market that's actually ahead of the game to some degree. I mean, I think you can't ever really keep ahead of the fraudsters. They're always sort of one step ahead, but the telemedia industry is very much there with keeping up with it. And we have a lot of companies really deeply focused on getting this right. And I think some of the mistakes of the past have now made this a much better industry. And the sort of carrier billing compliance is there as new markets sort of develop, particularly in the Middle East and North Africa. The sort of compliance side and understanding the sort of flow of how the content is sold, how the carrier billing works, trying to mitigate and overcome fraud or cut out where it could occur in the first place. It is really sort of front and center. He made some interesting comments, I think, really about the sustainable view that people now have of this industry. It's not just a quick buck out of like the latest content trend like the ringtones back in the day and all that kind of thing. It's much more about building a long-term, sustainable, secure business. And I think it might well be one of those industries that other sort of online merchant sectors could take a look at and sort of see, well, this is how this sector has tackled this problem. Maybe there's some ideas here as to how we can do this, which is all relevant in an era where fraud is just growing and growing, particularly when it's powered by AI.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I thought one of the other interesting things that he pointed out was that I remember back in, again, 20 years ago in our sort of commercial marketing material, when we were talking about the telemedia industry, we would often use and reference the ever-changing media landscape, thinking back then that, the internet was it, that was the change. But of course, Kevin makes a very interesting point that nowadays, anywhere that there are eyeballs will be rightfully a target now for advertisers and merchants to promote digital telemedia value added services, which, when you think about it, makes the task and the service that these companies and the technology that these companies have developed, it really baffling. It's extraordinary that the number of different areas that they are now able to monitor and as I say, therefore protect and make sure that compliant advertising and scams are, being picked up
Mm.
early doors, because it is absolutely vast. And in fact, on that note, I think it's telling, really, that when we look at developing the conference plan for World Telemedia in Dubai, which is coming up on the 11th to 13th of May, and also Marbella in October, if you look at the kinds of things that the industry want to talk about at the telemedia event now, more and more and more of it is about, understandably, how you acquire those customers, but the broad range of various sites and mechanisms and ways of attracting eyeballs is just expanding. And it wasn't that long ago Google was the only show in town, and now it's absolutely
Mm.
everything. So that also means, and I think Kevin makes that point quite well, that whilst that means it's a big old task for companies like Kevin's, it also means that the telemedia industry has got an ever expanding and growing media landscape in which to acquire an ever larger number of customers, which is why I think we're seeing such some exciting numbers coming out of the market, and we're seeing some real success stories across the board as value-added services become ever more important to those tech-savvy, high-tech, on-the-move consumers being serviced so brilliantly by telemedia providers across the globe. Yeah, if you're interested, anyone out there in selling your digital services effectively and compliantly and getting the maximum engagement across the board, then you need to be at one of those World Telemedia events. And I'm sure that you will find the links somewhere below us or above us in this, wherever you happen to be watching this video. I think it's also, as a footnote to this, worth pointing out, seeing as Kevin gave us his time in Barcelona, that there was an interesting press release from MCP on the 8th of January, which you can reread, which goes into a little bit more detail about how they launched, as I say, only in January, an upgraded version 4 of their campaign and billing flow monitoring tool, the MCP scanner, which is obviously doing great things for a number of telemedia companies in our world, in our universe. But talking of compliance and campaign management and all that sort of stuff. Avena have got some amazing news that just came out with regards to a deal that they've done with Ooredoo, who are enormous in the sort of MENA and Southeast Asia area. And they've done some work for them, and they've done a deal with them to make sure the DCB is even cleaner. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it was just a sort of, I thought, sort of in light of the things that Kevin was saying, it was worth just flagging this up that Avena are working with Ooredoo, um, to just add Avena's AI-powered fraud prevention technology to its carrier billing offering. I think it was just a nice and timely example of how the industry is embracing this. As Kevin says, it's across the value chain. It's from the operators all the way down, and here we have an example of that in action with our friends at Avena. They too, like everybody, has to sort of keep on top of AI, and they build AI into their offering. It gets ever more sophisticated to combat the ever more sophisticated AI frauds that are out there. Yeah, it was just a lovely example, I think, that came along sort of moments pretty much after Kevin's sort of points he made at 8.1, that of it in action. Just shows that they do take this very seriously, and there's some really excellent solutions out there. I mean, fraud's a huge challenge, particularly for the payments industry, but also for the MVAS, the wider MVAS community. And I think this really shows, particularly in the MENA region, how they're really taking the bull by the horns and going for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, if you want to understand the sort of sheer scale and importance of this deal, um, Ooredoo are were the first operator actually to launch the 5G network, which I was not aware of. They did, of course, used to be QTEL out of Qatar, and they have since become one of the largest comms companies in the world with over 114 million customers across MENA and Asia. So they really are an enormous business. So I think, huge congratulations to our friends at Avena, who we're very proud to say have been a platinum sponsor of World Telemedia for a very long time now. So for them to have secured this deal with a giant of the comms industry like Ooredoo, I think is fantastic. Ooredoo, for those that don't know, means "I want" in Arabic, and so I guess that's telling, because I guess Avena are now gonna want even more of those kind of deals coming their way. But yeah, payment security is obviously important to an enormous company like that. It's really fantastic that a company that's so close to the telemedia industry, like Avina has, beaten off all the competition and secured that deal. So congratulations to them. But also, again, if you're in the VAS industry and you want to make sure that you're compliant, that you're anti-fraud, that you're safe, then there are plenty of very excellent providers at World Telemedia that can talk you through how to get keep your business protected and keep those revenues protected and keep those good customers happy. Again, just a quick reminder, if you would like to get regular updates from us, please do remember to like, subscribe, and give us a comment. We'd like to hear from you.